Back now to the charges filed against President Trump's former campaign chair and his deputy in the special counsel's Russia probe. Judge Napolitano thinks this is just the beginning of much more to come.
This is the first of many dominoes to fall. That Bob Mueller is following the standard MO of federal prosecutors. You got a totem pole, you got somebody at the top of the totem pole, that's your big prize. You're going to indict people going up the totem pole to see if you can squeeze them, threaten their ruination by loss of liberty and loss of property. This is the first of many steps in Bob Mueller's putting together an enormous puzzle.
Wow.
Oh.
What?
That's three. He did three metaphors.
Mixed
he did dominoes, totem pole, and then a puzzle. That's very confusing, Judge. Are we sure he's a judge?
I'm pretty sure.
All
Okay,
right.
skipping Greg. Okay, Dana, puzzle boy. Dana, so when you hear the judge say that, he says it's a part of a puzzle, much more to come. This is what we were talking about in the last block, to say that I think this is just scratching the surface. This is what he started kicking it off with. And then they're going to use, and this is what I did as a prosecutor, you get these people, and then from them you pull threads. And they try to
Or you roll it up
others.
like a toothpaste tube, right?
This is like metaphor hell. Threads and toothpaste.
I could totally follow everything that was going on.
Of course, exactly.
I think one thing that might have been a little bit of a surprise today is that Rick Gates gets brought up again, because people sort of forgot about him. He wasn't somebody who was let go immediately, as Manafort was. He stayed around on the campaign. He worked on the inaugural committee, or in the transition, that period right after the election, and then he worked on the inaugural committee. So I think that was a little bit of a surprise, like, oh, everyone forgot about him. I do think that in some ways people might have been surprised today that it wasn't Mike Flynn, the former national security advisor, had been on the campaign trail, who we know has been in contact with prosecutors in this case. So I don't know if there's more to come or not. I don't know. I feel like it's pretty locked up. This guy, the Papadopoulos, got arrested in July, and we don't hear about it until today. I mean, that's a pretty tight operation, I think.
Okay, Jesse, so when you hear them talk about, there's more to come, et cetera, I mean, do you think, you were mentioning in the last block, that you really think perhaps they're going to try to use, Manafort to get him to roll on as somebody closer, et cetera, to President Trump's inner circle?
I think you have to assume that there is major international conspiracy and collusion between Trump and Russia to buy into the premise that he's just squeezing Manafort in order to get the big fish.
Right.
What if there is no criminality with Russia?
Right.
So you're squeezing Manafort for
Well, that's
nothing.
what Peter King was saying, that he's been present and privy for some of the actual testimony of people coming in, like Trump's lawyer, and nothing so far that he's heard, he said, suggests or ties in anything to collusion with the Russians. The best they can hope to do, Juan, is make kind of a tangential connection to say, well, maybe President Trump and his team knew that Manafort had these connections, but where's the proof of that?
Right. Well, I think it's a little different is the way I would view it, Kimberly, because I think, one, remember, Manafort was at that meeting in 2016 that was arranged by Donald Trump Jr., and so Manafort is at that meeting, Jared Kushner's at that meeting.
With the Russian PR chick.
And then we learned last week that the woman who was there, in fact, had notes that had been coordinated with the Russian government. So she's at this meeting. She says, oh, I've got nothing to... Oh, turns out she does have some connection to the Russian government. And then you have Manafort, who took notes at this meeting. And guess who has these notes, who recovered the notes? I don't know if he recovered them when he busted into the guy's house, but he has Manafort's notes from that meeting. So he's going to want to know from Manafort, what happened at that meeting? And secondly, was there follow-up to it? So that then leads, and this is, how you were thinking. You were saying, well, there's no direct tie. But if they know that, in fact, the Russians are taking certain steps, then they are going to take maybe coordinated. It's not necessarily collusion by your definition, but my mind it would be, hey, these two are working together.
Okay, so one point to what Juan is speaking to, and Jesse, I'm going to get you to respond to it. Now, if you look at the specific language in the indictment, there's 13 wire transfers, and when you do financial crimes cases like this, you follow the money, you go back, and what it appears to me is that Mueller is really trying to stretch the timeline by showing these series of 13 wires from 2012 to 2014 to show that it is actually in sort of the nexus of that time frame of the connection and a relationship with President Trump and the campaign, et cetera. So trying to move it down here to then where he starts working, for delegates, etc. To me, that's what I see that he's trying to do, to rope it in.
Does the timeline stretch as far as 2016? Because what I read, it went to 2006 to 2014.
2014, 100%. And then it says at least until 2016. So that is an attempt, because you can say, like, for example, say I'm going to plead a case out, I'm going to charge a defendant, and what do we always say? We say on or about the, December 12th. So it could be 11th, it could be the 13th, and that's how you cover it. You put it sort of in a...
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to speculate.
It
seems like you'd know what you're talking about.
It looks like it.
Juan's point, too, you're talking about the Russian lawyer at the meeting at Trump Tower. Now, she's been tied to Fusion GPS as well. So if you do pull the thread and we come back to having Mueller investigate Fusion GPS, and we talk about Podesta, not the brother, the actual campaign chair, saying to the Senate that he had no idea who paid for this. That seems like a lie, and it also seems like paying for Russian dirt to influence election. So, and if his brother falls as well, you could have the same thing that happened with James Comey, where in the minute the Democrats, they love James Comey, impeachable, man of integrity. And then what happens in October? He turns things around, and then they start crushing Comey again. The same thing could happen once the Democrats fall. They're going to start impeaching the integrity of Mueller.
How's Fantasy Island working for you there?
It's great. I don't need any suntan lotion. I got a nice tan.
Reagan's.
I'm changing my name. Tell the producers to shut up.
I think you just did.
All right. I'm changing my name to Gutfeldopoulos. So from now on, you will address me as Gutfeldopoulos. Look, what
about Gutapopoulos?
What do they have Manafort on? They got him on money laundering, which is essentially passing off illegal funds as legit profits from a business. How different is that than hair and makeup? Seriously. Look, they take something awful and they make it beautiful. That's all it is.
Well, speak for yourself. Okay.